Today we're diving into a story from a distant past that's way more thrilling than any viral YouTube video. In other words, he used current data to recall scenes from his past, and then launched into the epic saga of his long life. At his first life stage, he stopped aging at 35, leading the tribe to call him a wizard and crown him leader. At first, they treated him like a god, but as time went on, they began to worry he was a life-stealing monster, and eventually booted him out of the tribe. John wandered alone, but quietly learned the art of fitting in with new tribes like a pro. Since tribes were semi-nomadic, following weather and prey, John blended in until it chilled like a fridge. As weather cooled, John mused post-Ice Age. The archaeologist asked about the weather. John seriously replied, "Mountains sack like pancakes," sparking doubts if he was a real estate mogul. He then recalled gazing at the British Isles from the French coast. It was only when glaciers melted the mountains got submerged, like climate poker. Biologist asked, "Is this for real?" Old Black replied, "Yep, matches historical records." The archaeologist added, "You can find that." John said he relied on books to recall those things, as it's hard for normals to remember childhood just by memory. Especially for someone with his long life, recalling distant memories is hard. But once those memories pop up, he slowly starts to remember. Just as he finished, the biologist threw in another curveball. He wondered if this was reincarnation, like when he cycled through life, death, and then get the memories from a past life. But John shot back, "There's only one life." The female scholar asked, "Aren't you curious about the origin of the world?" Her question seemed to hit a nerve with John. He was suddenly all ears. Initially, he thought gods existed, but later realized it was abnormal, thinking he was cursed. However, over time, he came to understand that maybe all of this was just one bizarre solo act. So slowly, he transformed into an atheist, even though it sounded like a plot twist from a wacky comedy. Yet his reasoning was flawless. The female professor casually asked about Van Gogh's painting, and John nodded, saying he was known as Bernard. He was a pig farmer. Van Gogh often painted there, and over time, they became friends discussing capturing nature in art. Soon, he met Turner, Cézanne, and Pissarro, and just after Van Gogh's death, it was time for him. This immortal gentleman then decided to migrate from France to the USA and continue his legendary life. The archaeologist puzzled again. "If you hold the secret to immortality, why share it with us?" John pondered. "It's just a wild idea, perhaps a bad one, but I want to say goodbye as my true self." His words jolted the archaeologist awake, realizing John was likely not joking at all. Confused, he hurriedly called the psychologist for backup. Meanwhile, the anthropologist Old Black asked John, "In such a long history, didn't you keep any memorabilia?" John shot back, "Why keep them? I never thought about it back then." He casually pointed at the pen in his hand and said, "Could it be possible that I will still be carrying this 1,000 years from now?" Of course, I'd lose it. Who could have predicted the value of a random rock? This left Old Black speechless, as the knife was indeed John's thrift shop find. As John loaded his luggage into the car, the young female professor confessed her feelings for him. He was touched and replied, "Yeah, I feel the same, but I might ghost you in 3 years. So, to avoid holding back the young prof, John decided to wave goodbye. Everyone jumped back into the queue and a session, the onslaught of questions pounding like a drum. Couldn't believe John could keep spinning his tale this time. He began recounting his adventures heading east. Ever since he realized his uniqueness, he set off towards where the sun rises, bubbling with curiosity. It was then he laid eyes on the ocean, what's now the Mediterranean, and that image stuck with him forever. Following the sea, he reached the east and witnessed the grandeur of the Bronze Age firsthand. Along the way, he saw a plethora of marvels, each unique yet wondrous in its own right. John learned their language, saw aimless drifting was pointless, so stayed and became a 2,000-year-old Sumerian. That's right, the Babylonians under Hammurabis rule, but ultimately he had to keep heading east. What's a guy to do when you're immortal? This time, he made it to India right in the Buddha's era. What a remarkable character he met. The Buddha taught him loads, prompting John to stay and learn under his wing. Although the Buddha might have sensed John's uniqueness, he never pried into John's secrets. When John wrapped this up, everyone was left speechless, jaws on the floor, utterly flabbergasted. They were at a loss, unsure if it was a tale or John's lived experience. All Plaque leaned more towards it being a story. The archaeologist thought John was mentally unstable, and then a car arrived outside of the psychologist. But this situation was tricky. No one could verify if John's words were true, yet they couldn't dismiss him either. With the psychologist listening, they wondered if he'd spot inconsistencies, yet many sensed a true difference this time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe.